Hello and welcome to another episode of Nathan Builds Robots. Today we're going to be checking out Messe Frankfurt. We've got Formnext 2025 in there. If you stay tuned until the end, you'll learn a lot. So we're going to start out in Hall 12.1. 12.1 is where we're going to have most of our consumer FDM 3D printers. Right here we've got Snapmaker. What I like about the Snapmaker booth is that they've actually got a ton of these machines running. And we can see all of those lovely prints going, like this one here. Pretty awesome print quality and lightning fast tool changes. I think it's about to switch over here, so we'll watch it. That took about 5 or 10 seconds to switch tool heads, do a little purge, and then get back to printing. So this represents one of the fastest tool changer systems on the market. We'll take a look at a couple of more today. All right, we've got a nice little quiet zone over here at the Bambu Lab booth. This place was pretty busy yesterday when they launched the H2S, but now things have calmed down a little bit. It's just morning time, there's not a lot of people running around. But yeah, we've got the H2S, H2D, and then here's the H2C, which is the one they just announced. So they're demonstrating the nozzle change system over here. It's pretty quick. We do have a couple H2Ss and H2Ds running. Let's go ahead and take a look at them with the thermal camera. That actually doesn't look too bad. You got relatively even heating there. Maybe it's a little bit cooler on the left edge there. 41 versus 53. Yeah, I guess there is a bit of a cool spot right there, right next to that, that cooling fan. So you could have some bed adhesion issues. That's good to know. I think any printer that has one of those cooling fans might be susceptible to that sort of bed cooling effect. All right, here's the PRUSA booth. It's pretty lively, despite being pretty early in the morning. This one can be used for critical infrastructure. There's no webcam, no Wi-Fi. So if you're working on some sort of sensitive industry, whether that's defense, aerospace, any type of critical research, then you might need to take extra precautions with your data. All right, let's take a look at the Core 1L. I should be getting one of these in for review. And what these green wires mean is that they've got a high temperature hot end installed on this machine. Also, let's take a look at it with the thermal imager. Oh my gosh, this is a pretty hot bed. 103 degrees, 104, 106, 106, 103. I don't want to leave this open too long though, because it looks like they're printing some high temperature filaments there. That's the new high temperature hot end. It goes up to 400 degrees Celsius. It's pretty expensive. I think it's over $200 for just that little hot end upgrade. Ooh, can I record that? So here we got the INDX hot end. We've got the inductive coil in there and some really compact drive gears in there. Quite compact and dense. They've also got some more interesting XL printers over here at the booth. So this one is their silicone printer. They have a bunch of sample parts here. They're like very nice and squishy. You can't really print filament this soft. It's fitting they printed out a little gummy bear here because you get a Haribo gummy bear with every PRUSA printer, but it's about the same consistency. There could definitely be some applications for this. And over here we've got kind of a belt-driven, not sure what the advantages are about this. Maybe I could link a video in the top left corner here where you can check out some more about that printer. We got lots of XLs, lots of Core 1s, lots of Core 1Ls. We'll stop back later today to see if they have anything else to announce. There you can see the Bambu Lab people. They've got their own little upstairs area where they can chill out. Very exclusive. I've been looking at this printer every trade show that I go to because I think it's a really cool one. This is a pellet-driven extruder. So you've just got this hopper with a bunch of material up top. And the print quality they get off of this thing is quite good. Just take a look at a couple of these prints. They're nice and chunky layer lines. And this looks like they've got pretty reliable extrusion coming off of this machine. So if they were able to adapt this to like a consumer version, I feel like that would be really nice because I would really like to get one of these machines. But as it is, this is more of an industrial grade, an industrial priced machine. It's going to set you back like something like $4,000 or $5,000 with this version. It's got a super solid print bed. I don't have my 2x4 here, so I can't really put it to the test. Of course, you've got the K2 Plus. They're printing a bunch of these little articulating snake buddies from edge to edge. This is the Ender 3 V4 combo, so it's got the Creality CFS unit. And they attached all this junk to the side, so let me just go ahead and take this off. Ignore this stuff up at the top here. This is just an extra spool holder. It's not doing anything. Yeah. But you've got a CFS unit right here. It's being fed into a Bowden tube right here. and then this little tube is going to the print head, so it's just gonna go back and forth and print. I can't take that off. I'll probably break it if I do. Over here you can see we've got a linear screw that's embedded into the side of this channel. So that's greatly reducing the size and the mass of this whole assembly. You can see if you took a cross section of this, it'd just be barely any material. So they're really driving the cost down of this machine. And I imagine this would be super easy to pack and ship because, as you know, when you're a UPS delivery guy, you like to throw these things across the room. So if you have a really lightweight printer, then it's less weight in the box and your impact forces are lower. So that's just one way that they can reduce costs and get packaging sizes down. This looks like a 220 by 220 build surface. Hey, this isn't printing anything. What's going on with that? Let's go ahead and fix this for them. And then on the x-axis, we've just got a single piece of linear rail. And then in the back, we've got a really compact setup where we've just got the stepper motor taking up a really tiny amount of space. So they've done a pretty good job of packaging everything in there. Another thing that they've come out with is this CFS adapter module, where basically you can take your old Creality K2 or maybe even some other 3D printers and modify it to accept a Creality CFS unit where you can start printing with multiple colors. This works a little bit different than a normal multicolor AMS CFS type system. Instead of having a filament cutter built into the tool head, the filament cutter is back in this module. So when it changes colors, it needs to cut the filament here and then push all of this plastic through the nozzle to purge. And that's why you can see this line on the side is super thick, because they had to purge an entire length of PLA through the hot end before it could start printing with the other color. A little more wasteful than your typical CFS system, but if all you need is to get some kind of filament management working on some of your older printers, this could be a way to do it. All right, next up in the land of FDM printers, we've got the Qidi printers. We've got a couple of them on display here that I think are pretty interesting. So we've got the Qidi Q2. As you can see, it's printing quite fast. Seems like a pretty good quality machine. We've got 2 lead screws on the sides. It's a little less than my favorite number of 3 lead screws, but 2 will do. Sometimes you can get issues with that when the prints get really high up and you've got really heavy prints and the printer's shaking back and forth. But most of the time, 2 is enough. And they've got their Qidi box, which is able to dispense multiple colors of filament into the machine, just like basically every company has at this point. The other cool things that I saw at the Qidi booth were this Qidi Max 4. It's basically the largest fully enclosed printer that's capable of printing at relatively high temperatures. Inside we've got an indicator light. RGB lights make computers go faster, so of course they probably make printers go faster as well. This print volume is just enormous, and the cost of this machine really isn't that bad. When I was looking on their website, it was something like $1,000 for the printer by itself, and then $1,200 for the printer plus this multicolor unit box. So if you need something with a huge amount of print volume for a low price, this is definitely one of your go-to options. Another really cool thing that they had running at the show was this polar cooler. This is actually kind of like a mini fridge Peltier cooling unit, where it's able to cool off the air that gets fed into the back of the machine. It's piped right through this flexible tubing, and that goes to the hot end, and it blows cooled air onto your parts. Also, it's interesting to see all these PTFE tubes in the back, which power this multicolor unit. And we got the poop chute dumping out a little bit of purge material in the back here. One of my complaints with these machines in the past was that the chamber heater was, you could accidentally touch that with a tool or something. But now in this machine, they've covered all of that up. Looks like they're using 1.5 millimeter belts as well to help improve print quality a little bit. And right now we've got some first layer lines going down. All right, let's check back in with the Creality booth, see if they were able to get that machine up and running. So it looks like it's got some filament loaded up now, and it's purging. So first print of the day. While we're over here, I just talked to the people from HeyGears yesterday and took a look at what they have in terms of their 3D printer offerings. So over here we've got the HeyGears printer. It's basically like a slightly higher end resin printer that's more designed for producing finished parts. They had to do some post-processing on these to get them to look so good, but they've got some very, very nice looking parts here. I just really like the surface finishes that they can achieve with whatever post-processing they're doing. And this one just has like a nice matte look and feel to it. But yeah, just like really high quality prints. So overall, I would describe them as being more similar to a more professional grade printer like a Formlabs printer than your basic Anycubic or Elegoo printer. This one's showing that you can print a full pair of shoes in here. They got really nice squishy resins, and they've cured them and post-processed them in such a way that this is not like tacky or smelly or anything like that. They just have really finely tuned print profiles and that kind of stuff. So it's giving you that more professional grade experience. Now that probably comes with a little bit of a price premium. This device is pretty interesting. I was taking a look at these yesterday, and what they explained was that this is basically a little air pump, and it'll pump up a little pillow of air underneath the release film, and that'll aid in flexing that film and getting the parts to release with lower force. So that's one of the many things that they can do to increase print quality. When you have lower release forces, then you're able to print with fewer supports. Also, they formulate a lot of their own resins, so we've got a ton of really nice and flexible different materials and colors and all that kind of stuff that are designed to work with their printers. All right, I just came back to the Creality booth. All right, so the hot end just got up to temperature and the bed is cooling down a little bit. It's taking a long time for this bed to cool down, so what that kind of tells me is they're probably using a thicker print bed there. All right, it's doing its little purge line, and now we're ready to print. As expected, it just works. We're gonna give it a little bend test. We'll see if it wobbles a little bit at this joint. That's going to be an important joint, and that doesn't really pass my wobble test. It looks like it flexes a little bit. Maybe this whole bottom half is injection molded plastic. So this is an extremely low-cost construction. Yeah, that joint isn't super, it's not super sturdy. Oh my gosh, I'm ruining the print by flexing it while it's printing. So let's just leave it alone and let it do its thing. All right, so we're gonna check out the BIQU booth just because there's a lot of 3D printer accessories here.
That doesn't have like a whole ton of machines busy operating.
All right, here's the world's first BIQU tattoo. That actually works pretty good.
It's too far off.
Oh yeah, the other one is too far away. So it's got a pretty narrow working band. I can smell the ink.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, so it's like food coloring mixed with alcohol. Thin it out a bit.
Nice.
So what you'll smell is like the sweetness of the food coloring and alcohol.
Cool, let's see.
And it's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
You could do face paint at like children's birthday parties.
Get your face in there.
Or a Panda Cyborg. So it's basically a P1P frame that they've modified with a bunch of high-speed printing modifications. We've got some super big fans to cool off the stepper motors. We've got a CPAP cooling system in the back, and that's running up through this tube up to the top. And then they've got like this lightweight skeletonized print head. Basically all the PCBs have been replaced with Big Tree Tech boards. So completely gutted and replaced with open source Clipper software. So we've got a big touchscreen on here. So the main use case for a machine like this is, let's say you've got an old Bambu Lab machine and it breaks down, but you don't want to throw it away because you're a hoarder like most 3D printer people are. Well, you're going to want to hold on to it and just get all new guts for it and replace all the parts and then turn it into an absolute speed demon like this machine is. All right, and here's a wide variety of different Big Tree Tech products. This one actually has, it looks like a diamond in it. This has probably a diamond tip nozzle, but they have an accompanying ring that goes with it. So if you've got a wife or a girlfriend that likes jewelry, maybe this could be the 3D printer nozzle upgrade for you. We have just like all these different accessories and upgrades for your Bambu Lab products. Here's the list of all the upgrades. Here's an A1 that's been upgraded with a bunch of BIQU, Big Tree Tech upgrades. Over here, this screen isn't working because they think it works over Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi connections in this whole event hall are quite bad because of just how many Wi-Fi connected devices we have. Yeah, that's like a really big fan back there. Now, as you might recall, I built a crazy printer in the past, and I used all Big Tree Tech boards on that just because I found that they were the brand that was the most reliable. It was the easiest to get all that set up. They've got great documentation and they're all open source, so I think that that's kind of a really cool thing about Big Tree Tech. And then over here we've got the Stone 3D Stone Wolf. It's a super fast printer. As you can see, it's almost blurry with how fast it's moving. And it's an open frame printer, all CNC construction. I think it costs about $1,500. We've got just like the super lightweight carbon fiber gantry that moves back and forth. It's just a really unique design. It's got a super thick bed and all precision machined components, so pretty cool. Oh yeah, we got an enclosure here. That's in the works, but I am a big fan of unenclosed printers, especially when they look this good. You get to see all the mechanical components and nice machining marks on here. So, seems like a pretty premium machine, and it's all powered by Big Tree Tech electronics that are all housed in this back spine over there. So yeah, let's just watch this print for a minute. Oh wow, gotta watch out for my camera, this thing's moving fast. It goes up to 1,500 millimeters per second. And then over here we've just got a typical Voron. I can't forget about this. This is the Big Tree Tech AMS type unit. So this will do all your filament management and feed different colors into your 3D printer. All right, so that's a wrap for the Big Tree Tech booth. Next up, I wanted to take a look at the stuff from Anycubic. First of all, we got the Anycubic Cobra S1 Max. That's basically a K2 Plus, but Anycubic's version of it. They fixed a couple little design issues that I had with my K2 Plus. One was, instead of using 2 lead screws like they do on the K2 Plus, they're using 3 lead screws. 3 lead screws is the superior configuration. On the K2 Plus, it never really gave me any issues, but there were a couple prints that I did that were very tall and heavy. And once you get a tall, heavy object on these print beds, then they can start to wobble and rock back and forth as it's printing. With 3 lead screws, that's less likely to happen because it's just a more stable configuration. But they've got basically all the same features. They've got a heated chamber, dual part cooling fans, a super large build volume. I think it's the same build volume. It's 350 by 350. And they've got a multicolor unit up top here. Then a touchscreen interface and a little USB port. So, you know, it's got that same type of feature set, but it seems to be a pretty well-built machine I'd like to try out. Next up, we've got the Ace Gen 2. It's got 4 types of filament going in here. So it's like it has an AMS Lite type of unit, but there's no complexity built into these little filament feeders. They're just basic spool holders, and those are feeding filament down into this hot end. And instead of having an external AMS unit with all these motors that are pushing and pulling on the filament to feed them into the hot end, that's all built in right here. So inside of this unit, they've got a, let's see, well, we can't really see what's inside of there, but I saw some other pictures of it online. Basically, it's got a little gearbox inside of here that changes which filament path is activated. So essentially, the whole AMS unit is built into the print head. It can just choose which filament it's grabbing onto at any given time and start feeding it. So it lets it pick between these 4 filaments with everything built in right here. And the advantage of that is, well, you don't have to have an external AMS unit, which drives down costs quite a bit. And it's just a lot neater. You just feed the filament in there and it's good to go. The downside of all this is the print head is a little bit larger and heavier, which in theory could drive down your print speeds a little bit. But this appears to be a well-built high-speed bed slinger. And on a bed slinger, you're only moving the print head back and forth instead of in all directions. So the weight matters a little bit less. I mean, as long as this is about the same weight as the print bed, then it ends up being okay, and not really being a limitation on your print speeds and accelerations. Now, I heard some haters say that this uses too thin of a heated bed, and yes, it looks like it uses quite a thin heated bed in here. Like, look at this, I'm pinching it. It's like this thick. So you've got your sticker sheet, your heated bed, and this little plastic covering on the bottom. All of that is less than a centimeter thick. They're probably not fitting a big chunk of aluminum in there, which could cause issues with you know, getting a good clean first layer. The result is in the details of whether it prints or not, and that's something you could verify with testing. Just take a look at the print that's going right now and kind of get an idea. It looks like that first layer went down really nice, but that's something that I would like to just look into and verify if I ever got one in for review. One other thing that's pretty cool here is the Anycubic Photon P1. It allows you to have 2 different types of resin loaded up in your printer at any given time. Let's say there's just 2 resins that you use. You have like a clear one and a colored one, and you just like switching back and forth between those. Well, you can just leave them both loaded up in here and not have to worry about changing resin or switching trays or anything like that. So that could be a workflow improvement. Also, with resin printers, usually you're printing smaller parts, so you know these smaller build volumes aren't as big of a deal. And finally, if you want to have just a single large print volume, you can pull this tray out and replace it with a single tray, which will unlock that full build volume. So it just gives you a couple more options of different ways you can work with your 3D printer. It's not as innovative as I'd like to see. I'd like to see that full multicolor resin, but you know, that's really difficult to pull off. Instead, we've got a setup where we can do 2 resins, which I guess is better than 1, and you can switch back to a single resin if you ever feel like doing that. And before we leave the booth, there's one other thing that caught my eye, and that's this gigantic Anycubic Cobra Max. Probably one of the largest multicolor printers on the market. We've got 4 different filaments feeding in here, 420 by 420 by 500. So yeah, this is one of the largest multicolor printers on the market. And you can print some gigantic multicolor stuff if that's what you're into. And then over here you've got the Cobra S1, which I haven't checked out, but it really looks like Anycubic has upped their game in terms of their printer quality. Definitely worth checking out, especially if the price is right. Let's take a minute to look at a couple industrial scale printers. Over here we've got something that can print metal, and it's got all these different robot arms and stuff. We've got this, I believe this is a 3D printed boat, so this whole hull was 3D printed and then they painted it so that it doesn't look like you know, your typical 3D print with the layer lines. Over here we've got another boat that has all the layer lines intact, so you can see, you know, big layer lines. I overheard the representative from this company say that this boat took 4 days to print, so not a bad print time for something that probably weighs close to a ton. Let's see, what do they say here? 820 kilograms, so yeah, close to a ton, and it's 5.78 meters long. All right, so Seed, I always see this company at these trade shows, and they make some really nice prints. They're actually doing a live demo over here, so let's take a quick look at that. This is just a gigantic gantry type printer with a pellet extruder, and it's just laying down tons of plastic. That's probably like 1 centimeter wide extrusion. Super big printer. Maybe I can get one in for review. Here's another printer that I took a couple double takes at. This thing's really cool. Looks like they're printing a Formnext logo. Now the advantages of this printer, as it was explained to me the other day, is basically instead of melting a thermoplastic to print the way that most 3D printers work, it's actually a thermoset material, which means that it's going to have a much higher melting point, and this really helps them with post-processing, because instead of having to, you know, when they're machining these things to clean up the surface finish, whether it's being used for molds or end-use products, thermoplastics don't tend to machine that well just because they'll melt if you try to machine it too fast. This stuff is fiber reinforced. It's about 50% glass fibers by weight. So it's a very stiff and strong material, and they can machine it super quickly. Again, something I probably won't be able to afford in the next couple of weeks, but they have a bunch of cool sample prints. This is a 3D printed mold, and they post-processed it by machining it and probably sanding it or something, but it's really smooth, and it'll give you that nice surface finish that you need for molds. So autoclaving is a process that they use for carbon fiber composites to get the desired material properties under high heat and pressure. All right, and here's like a really big vase mode 3D print with clear material. It's a really cool print. I would like to do more stuff like this. And then here's just more like lighting and architectural stuff. Really embracing the layer lines here. Provides a really cool effect. I like black and clear plastic. What can I say? Over here we have a booth from Colorfabb. They have a bunch of different materials. I think the one that they're kind of most known for is this VarioShore TPU. They can foam it to change the shore hardness of the material. So you can make super soft materials, and they're just kind of showing, like, I guess for footwear and little car tires. Lots of little applications for it. I haven't used any foaming filament myself, but if I wanted to try some, this is one of the big names. This is a very captivating pattern here. It's like, I can't see the layer lines because it's all beaded up, and looks cool. I like these vases. All right, and over here we have FibreSeek. They just launched a Kickstarter for a continuous fiber printing 3D printer. So what that means is instead of printing chopped fibers that are mixed in with your parts, basically small chopped carbon fiber, they lay continuous carbon fibers into their parts, which has the advantage of being much stronger and stiffer. You're really getting a lot more out of the carbon fiber when you print it this way. So it's pretty cool to see that. And they've got a lot of sample parts. You can see it looks kind of doodly. Whenever you add carbon fiber into your parts, it'll make it stiffer, but you know, you have to control which direction it gets laid down. It's a pretty complicated process, and it's all very slicer dependent. You have to program in the slicer where to be laying down all of these carbon fibers. So it could be pretty complicated. This is your quintessential Kickstarter project where they're doing something super ambitious. They're releasing new hardware. So it could be pretty interesting. However, I haven't had any hands-on experience with this machine, and it seems like you could get a lot of issues with this type of hardware. So until I do some testing, I can't verify whether it's a good machine or not. But they are trying something pretty interesting. Here you can see the actual continuous fibers. It's like a really small diameter filament, and it's mostly carbon fiber. So when you print that, that's going to add a lot of stiffness into your parts. Now this is your typical chopped carbon fiber, which is more flexible and easier to 3D print with, but this is the stuff that is going to add a lot of tensile strength and stiffness. So we'll see how that turns out. I'd love to get some hands-on time with a printer like that. Over here we've got the DiamondBack nozzle display. They always have this cool display where you can take some of their polycrystalline material. You can feel the instant heat transfer that you get with diamond material compared to something like steel. When you push it, it just very, very slowly sinks in. The diamond immediately sinks in, and you can feel it cooling off your fingers instantly. Really cool demo, and you know the benefits of diamonds. It's a very hard material. So if you're printing abrasive filaments, it should last a long time. It's also very slick, so there's a lot of benefits to using it. Let's move on to the E3D booth. E3D is announcing a new technology here. They're basically flattening the filament path as it travels through the nozzle. So instead of just tapering down and being squished out the end and melting it, they actually flatten it out into this really wide and flat path, which helps boost heat transfer because you're basically forcing that material up against the walls of the nozzle, which is gonna just, you know, kind of help mix things together and force the solid cold plastic into contact with the metal part of the nozzle. And this is a prototype that they've got running. I like my rat rig V-Minion, but this one has some pretty impressive upgrades. Take a look at the size of those motors. Those are some big motors. That's like a NEMA 23, like a 120 millimeter long stepper motor. So, or maybe it's a servo motor, but they've got one on the X-axis and one on the Y-axis as well. So yeah, this is a super fast printer. I actually still have my rat rig V-Minion, so I'd love to set it up like this. If I could get the models and files to be able to print my mods to do it. The next thing they announced at the show are these Obsidian 500 nozzles. In the previous model, they could only go up to like 300 or something Celsius, but now they've changed the coating that they've put on here. Now they can go up to 500 degrees, and apparently it's supposed to be even harder material and more abrasion resistant. So I'm going to try it out. I actually got a couple of these to install on my PRUSA printers, so we'll see how that works out. The Polymaker booths are always pretty interesting at these shows. They've got really vibrant colors and HueForge prints, a lot of cool stuff on display. They even sponsor a couple of projects, like look at this Blastoise. I'm not sure if that's copyright approved, but they got a big old Blastoise and all these Pokemon and stuff. Someone's got an Iron Man suit here, all made with Polymaker filaments. This is made by James Burton. Hi, do you want to be on camera or no? Okay. Yeah, actually, James made this and brought it to the Polymaker booth. So it's a giant legged walking robot. And that's actually how I started my channel, making these legged walking robots, but much less impressive than this. All right, and then someone printed a giant Lego car. So lots of... Oh, okay. We got all the people repping their Polymaker made products here, so cool stuff. All right, now we're at the Phrozen booth. They've mostly done resin printers in the past, but now they've got their Phrozen Arco. And this thing looks like it's printing quite fast. It looks similar to a Voron design, like a Voron 2.4, but instead of belt-driven Z, it's got these lead screws. Then they've got the Arco with an enclosed design with a multicolor unit as well. So it looks like they've got 4 colors and then your multicolor box up top. This is also the Arco. It's just unenclosed and single color, probably coming in at a lower price point. Does anyone want to learn more about the Phrozen Arco? I could definitely check it out if you're interested. Over here, this is one of the fan favorites. This company prints material that's suspended in a gel. So, I mean, the gel has some kind of viscous and non-Newtonian effects where it just kind of locks everything in place once you print it there. And it's neutrally buoyant, so it's not going to float up to the top or sink. Anyways, it's a really cool process. If you look closely, I'm gonna do a real close-up here and try to be as stationary as possible. But the whole thing kind of wobbles around as the print head moves through it. That's really weird. Like, look up at that gel up towards the top. Oh yeah, that gel is kind of getting swirled around by the print head moving through it. But the parts that they can make with this process are really impressive. You don't have to deal with any support material because, you know, basically that gel is supporting the parts that you're making. So this is super duper floppy material, and the surface finish is really good. It's surprisingly good for a part that's built layer by layer. That's a really cool printer. Got a little squishy motorcycle seat there, and all these other squishy parts, tubes and wiring harnesses and all sorts of weird stuff. All right, we got to give Creality a fair shake. I showed the printer not working earlier, so let's wrap back around and see if just loading the filament was able to fix it. Yeah, it looks like it's working just fine now. So yeah, that's the Ender 3 V4. I'm a little skeptical of the injection molded base, and now I didn't take the whole thing apart. Maybe they've got some metal reinforcements in there as well. But anyways, I would like to try it out, see what it's like, see if it prints well. I mean, technically, sometimes we ask things of the 3D printed structures that they don't actually need, but in most cases, I think it's better to have a more rigid, stronger 3D printer within your cost constraints. I mean, every printer, even one that's like solid metal, is gonna flex a little bit, but I don't know, maybe an injection molded structural base is taking it a little bit too far. Now we're over here at the Elegoo booth, and they've got some of their older products like the Orange Storm Giga. We've also got the Saturn 4K Ultra, all their resin printers on this side. But more recently, I've been more interested in their FDM offerings. So over here we've got the Centauri Carbon. So here's the Centauri Carbon. I haven't used one, but it looks like basically a P1S type printer. It's got a touch screen, a 256 build area, enclosed. And then over on the right we've got the Centauri Carbon 2. It's using a completely different filament management system. On the old one, it looked like they were planning on just having it be fed into this and then having an AMS type unit that pulls it out and feeds the next one in. On the Centauri Carbon 2, they've got 4 spool holders on the side. It's a lot more like the Flashforge Adventure 5X. That was the multicolor printer from Flashforge. And over here, it looks like we've actually got an enclosure if you want an enclosure. So yeah, it's just like a big Tupperware bin that you can put over the top to get your chamber temperatures up a little bit. Pretty interesting printer from Elegoo. Now, there's been rumors brewing that Elegoo has actually received some funding from DJI as a way to boost competition with Bambu Lab. And as you can see, Bambu Lab, they're up there all superior, standing up in their little outpost, up in their little tree house. Apparently, Bambu Lab doesn't get along with DJI because they've been poaching a lot of their engineers and talent. Instead of going to DJI, a lot of these engineers might quit, or they might accept a job offer with Bambu Lab instead of DJI. Well, what's DJI's solution? Well, the rumor is that Elegoo is getting money from DJI to help improve their products, make their products better, so that people will choose to buy a low-cost Elegoo printer instead of an expensive Bambu Lab printer. And DJI's plan, supposedly, allegedly, is to starve them out. We'll see what happens with that. Now, it seems like everybody is going over to the PRUSA booth because I guess they're getting ready for an announcement. It's 11:05 right now, so we'll see what they have to show us. All right, and we've got the PRUSA Pro Delta printers. I did a whole video about the HT90 in the past. If you want to learn more about it, you can learn about it there. Oh man, there is quite a crowd going on. There's Joseph PRUSA. It might be doing an announcement. Oh yeah, there it is. That's the, oh, we got another one over here. Okay, okay. So apparently it's showtime. We got to check out the Core 1 Index. I don't know if that's the Core 1 or the Core 1L. We've got one over here though, so let's take a look at this one. There's actually an interview going on, so we'll try and keep it down a little bit. Let's go over to the other one. Okay, here we go. Wow. Oh yeah, here, do you want a mic?
I can.
Okay, all right, that'll work.
Got it.
Okay, so we got Gustav here.
So this is the index for Core 1, an aftermarket upgrade kit. And we have a 8-tool option available here. And over there we have a 4-tool option as well. So depending on how many tools you want to need for your machine, we have different options. Of course, the 4-tool option will be cheaper. So if you don't really have the high demands of the 8 tools, the 8 tools will be a bit more expensive, but we will have that option available as well because it's the maximum of the tools we can fit in this machine.
8 tools, that's a lot. Oh my gosh. I just realized there's side pockets on all of these.
So these are PRUSA's brand new dry boxes, so you can keep all of the filaments really dry while you're printing. They don't need to be exposed to the environment.
Yeah. I think this is about as many spools as you could possibly fit on this machine. So
we can't fit more tools, so the amount of spools we can fit is really convenient.
Yeah.
It made it up really well.
4 on the left, 4 on the right.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I heard that, what's the release date? Have you got any information on that?
So we have pre-orders with limited slots available, starting actually right now. And we hope to begin shipping those pre-orders in the late first quarter of next year. Yeah. And we have official sales opening in the next quarter as well.
Okay.
And when shipping of everything, a bit to be determined.
Okay.
We expect very, very high need for this for the customers. Yeah. And we will start to ramp up our production as fast as we can to be able to supply as many kits as possible. Yeah. But I would expect to deliver in like the first or second quarter.
Okay. All right. So you heard it here. We've got 3 to 6 months to wait before we get like all these coming out and everyone can try it out. But they're at least able to show it off today and kind of give us all the details about this new machine, how many print heads you can get on there and all that stuff. So pretty exciting. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
So they'll start printing soon. They just wanted to unveil it like this so people can get up close and touch it and mess with it. So we'll see some print footage probably pretty soon here. Okay, we've got some printing going on. So I'm going to try and sneak in there a little bit. I think there's a grant in the way for me getting closer. All right, we're going to head out. Actually, we got Luke from Luke's lab here as well, and you know, it seems like everybody's here right now. Let's just sneak up in here and get a close up of the 8 tool head version. Now the big difference here between this system and the Bambu Lab H2C that was announced, well, the Bambu Lab H2C, I guess you can start ordering it now and you'll probably get it a little sooner. But on this system, you've got much faster tool changeover because you don't have to rewind the filament back up into the spool every time you switch colors with an AMS system. You've just got all these loaded up and the filament is already loaded and ready to go. So when it changes over, it drops that off, grabs the next one. We'll see how long it takes to heat up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. All right, so about 13 seconds for a changeover. So if you're doing a part with a ton of changeovers, then that could help you print a lot faster. The front view is a little bit obstructed by all these tools, so you won't be able to watch your printer as well, but maybe that's what these side windows and the top window is for, so you can still kind of see what's going on. Or maybe if you have a camera in there, you can get a good look in there as well. Okay, let me get out of here. There's a little too much excitement in this booth right now. All right, now we're over here at the Sunlu booth. They've got all sorts of new filaments. Over here we've got I think it's called a quad color PLA, so you can rotate it and see all these different colors. They've also got some galaxy colored PLAs. Lots of new filaments there, but I'm not really a filament guy. I like my black and gray and white and clear. New color announcements aren't that exciting for me. What is more exciting is new hardware announcements. So they've got this AMS heater from Sunlu. So apparently you just replace the lid of your AMS and it turns it into an AMS Pro kind of. It's able to heat up your filament and maybe circulate the air a little bit. And there's little vents in the back so you can open it up and dry your filament out. So if you wanted to upgrade your AMS to have some sort of heater in it, I guess Sunlu's got you covered here. And they've got more filaments. I guess they've got some more advanced engineering materials, carbon fiber reinforced materials, all that kind of stuff. All right, we took a brief look at Colorfabb earlier, and also we have Recreus, which is another company that does a lot of flexible materials. I've been getting more into flexible materials because I feel like they offer a lot more functionality than your typical engineering filaments, which tend to be super stiff, but they'll still delaminate along the layer lines and shatter and all that kind of stuff. Recreus has a lot of these kind of rubbery, TPU-like materials. And one of the big things that they're showing off today is their 2.2 millimeter diameter filament. So we'll see if I can find some information about that. I guess it's printing right over here, so let's take a look. Now, this is 2.2 millimeter diameter, and this is an abomination if I've ever seen one. We've got a Bambu Lab 3D printer, we've got a Creality dry box, we've got a Recreus hot end and filament combo. Instead of using a 1.75 millimeter diameter, which is kind of the standard, they bumped it up to 2.2 millimeters diameter. And the reason they do that is basically you can push the filament a little bit harder with that larger diameter. Instead of buckling and spilling out the sides, since it's thicker, you can push it a little harder. Why not go to a larger size filament? Well, they're still working with the same stock extruders and stock PTFE tubes. They were able to bump up that diameter a little bit without causing any major ill effects for the rest of the printer. All you have to do is get the filament and get a new hot end, because the actual hot end and heat break has to be a little bit different than the standard setup. But your extruder and PTFE tubing still works just fine. So it's a pretty interesting concept. I know a lot of people are printing with these flexible materials nowadays. All right, now we're over here at the Flashforge booth. Let's see what they've got. At one point I did a video with them about their wax jet printers. And apparently they've got a new wax jet printer. It's not super relevant for me because those things are expensive. So one of the things here they're showing off is 2900 DPI resolution. If you look at a typical paper printer, that's like 600 DPI. So they've got much more dots per inch. It lets you get really fine details for all your jewelry wax castings that you want to make. And I don't know if you can see that right there, but apparently you can print guns on Flashforge printers. They've also got this big resin printer over here. This is apparently like a printer designed for industrial resin mass production. So some of the differences with this machine is they've got a much sturdier frame. They've got 4 bowl screws hidden behind these baffles, and that's going to be much stronger and more repeatable than your typical resin printer, which usually has like a cantilevered bed platform in the back that moves up and down. This, since it's got much more support, it can pull more cleanly and you're less likely to move around a little bit. So it's just a more controlled process, which will allow it to capture finer details and have less issues with layer shifts and that sort of thing, which are pretty common in resin 3D prints. But if you look at these prints, I couldn't find any kind of layer shifts or layer marks on this. You've got your typical like layer resolution, but there's not situations where it like shifts and moves around. This lighting at the booth, it looks great in person, but the camera doesn't capture it very well, so I'll just pick these up and take a look at them. Now these are probably post-processed a little bit, and you can see there's a couple little notches from where the supports came off, but overall this is excellent print quality, and it's probably pretty accurate too. The thing about these machines though is they're much bigger and heavier than typical resin 3D printers, so they're more fit for like a factory environment, not something that you would get for everyday printing. Even the Formlabs machines are much lighter. Like I think that one, it says it weighs something like 300 kilograms, so it's not something that you would just set down in your basement or something. You need a forklift or a crane to move it around. Then over here, we've got the Flashforge Adventure 5X. I did a review on a pre-production version of this machine. I said before that this is a great low-cost entry into multicolor 3D printing because they've integrated the AMS unit and the spool holders into the side here. One issue that I had with my pre-production unit is that these spool holders weren't quite reliable enough to hold onto the spools. They've updated them, but they still could probably stand to be a little bit more, have a larger range of spool sizes supported. They'll work for smaller spool diameters, but as you can see here, they bumped it up against this to keep this from sliding off. So I think they need to maybe fine-tune that a little bit more. And speaking of multicolor 3D printing, I almost forgot to point out these little guys. So these are full color 3D printed parts using a printer that they didn't bring to the show, but apparently they're working on it, and you can just print multicolor things. I guess it's kind of like a Mimaki, if you've ever seen something like that, or some kind of resin color jet printer. But yeah, you can build up these large 3D printed parts. These are actually pretty small, they're not large parts. And little toys and anatomical models or something. But it's pretty nice. You've got really good resolution and colors. Looks promising. All right, I'm just stopping back by over at the Snapmaker booth to see how things are going. As you can see, all these printers are doing quite well. So they've definitely got their production process down. And they're cranking out printers that, frankly, they just work. I hate using that term, but they appear to be just working, so that's pretty cool. If you've backed this project, I think you're going to be getting a printer that's going to be pretty awesome. And I've heard of some other stuff that they're working on that could be awesome as well. All right, and we're about to go into another hall, but last thing I want to point out before we leave this one, we got Stratus here. So if you want to buy a Stratus printer, if you've got a couple tens or hundreds of grand sitting around, they got you covered. All right, now we're in the other building. We're going to 11.1. Okay, first up we got Formlabs. Formlabs makes some really nice printers. Probably the coolest one of them all at this point in time is this 4L. It's a gigantic resin printer. Oh wow, and they're running this thing today. I didn't get to see it earlier, but you might like this. So this is a foam printer. As you can see, we've got these gigantic foam parts. I can pick this up. It's like that spray foam that you get when you install a door or window. You don't do a very good job, so it's leaking leaking air. It's just like this foam stuff that they can extrude out of this print head. That's cool. Holy cow. I'm curious what this looks like on the thermal camera. So let's take a look here. Okay, here we go, we're recording. But yeah, that's pretty cool looking. I guess since it is a insulative material, that foam is gonna have a hard time shedding all that heat. So it should probably stay warm for longer. Pretty interesting process. I imagine you could use this to print boats with, as they're doing here, but like packaging or anything else, or just something you want to be really lightweight that you can then coat in fiberglass or something else. I mean, there's probably a ton of applications for this kind of a machine. Very creative solution. This is the kind of stuff that you come to Nathan Builds Robots to watch. Remember to subscribe and stay tuned for more. I know that boat was really awesome. Maybe I can get one of those in for review. Or maybe you want to make an Ender 3 mod that does the same thing. All right, this is Editing Nathan cutting in because I realized I just filmed about 4 hours at Formnext. Hey everyone, this is Editing Nathan cutting in because I just realized that this is shaping up to be a very long video. I've got about 2 more hours of footage to go through, so yeah, I filmed quite a bit at Formnext. There's just so much really cool and interesting stuff to see. However, that full first half summed up all of the consumer desktop 3D printing, so anyone who's doing like hobby 3D printing or just wants to know about the basic stuff and new releases, That should pretty much all be covered in this video. In the second half, which I'll post at a future time, I'll get more into the more technical applications of 3D printing. I interviewed some people that were doing some really interesting stuff with radiative heating, more advanced hot ends and build plates, as well as specialty filaments and filament manufacturing machines. So I was able to see a ton of really cool stuff at Formnext. However, in the essence of saving time and keeping videos under an hour in length, I think I'm going to have to cut this one short. If you want to help me out and support the channel, go ahead and head over to Patreon and sign up. I have a free tier. I believe that anyone who supports my channel and really likes the content that I make, you can go in there and support it for free. Or additionally, if you're feeling like providing a monthly donation, there's an option to do that on Patreon as well. My coverage of Formnext this year was completely unsponsored. This was just me going there and checking things out that I thought were interesting, and I thought that you guys would find were interesting. And I couldn't have paid for it without the support that I get on Patreon. So again, I'd like to thank everyone who supports me over there, and I know that not everyone can make it out to see something like this, but thanks to my conference coverage, I'm hoping that a lot of you can kind of get a taste for what it's like. I'd strongly encourage anyone who has the opportunity to go to something like this to just head over and check it out. If you're in Europe, it's not too difficult to attend for a day. Or if you're in the United States, there's a couple of conferences, Rapid TCT, and some other manufacturing conferences that you could go and check out. And it's really good to just go to these things in person and meet some of the people that you may talk to online or interact with some of the brands that you like to purchase products from. You get like a first-hand look at all the latest and greatest new products. And I know everybody likes watching YouTube reviews online, but what's even better than that is going to one of these conferences and seeing all of the printers firsthand and being like, that's the one that I want. So again, thanks for watching this episode of Nathan Builds Robots. I'll see you in the next episode, and goodbye.